Hey folks, if you've been following my Tears of the Kingdom videos over the past 6 months or so, you'll know that I absolutely love the world lore and storytelling in this version of Hyrule. All of the ruins, remnants of the past, and mysterious remains draw me in and get me thinking about how life once was. Who lived or worked here? How did they fall into decay? Was it through the malice of the Great Calamity, or to abandonment due to the population decline across the kingdom? As well as if they have a future, or are about to fade from memory. The kingdom is packed, and it's something I'm very passionate about and enjoy making videos on. So in today's video, the 6th video in this unofficial series, we'll be taking a look at some more of Hyrule's forgotten ghost towns and ruins. From quiet hidden gems falling into ruin, all the way to a massive lore-heavy ruin, possibly linking back to the king, the sages, and the second Legend of Zelda game. Subscribe if you aren't already for more fabulous Zelda content. Be sure to go and grab yourself a snack and drink, folks, and let's get into this one. Looking out onto the Rauru Wetlands, just over the hill and round the corner from Kakariko Village, we can find the Rikoka Hills ruins. 2 small ruined buildings with this stunning view of the wetlands, Hyrule Castle, and Death Mountain. It's quiet, tucked away, and honestly a really beautiful spot to live, all whilst not being completely disconnected from civilization, as back in the day before the Great Calamity destroyed the kingdom, Gaponga Village would have been present here in the wetlands. It's entirely possible that this little home up here was even considered an extended part of the village, or if not, it's at least likely that whoever lived here regularly ventured down to the village to buy necessities, like food, firewood, and household goods. Maybe a wee brewski or two, I don't know. It's also worth noting that there's more ruins on top of them and up the hill quite a bit, but this is likely just another randomly dotted home. There's only 2 buildings here, along with a well. I'd imagine that this home here on the right was an actual home, with its stone floors and larger inside space. Then this smaller one on the left possibly being for some sort of storage. As to who exactly lived here, like always, there aren't many strong indications to tell us. However, we do find a rusty shield lying on the ground of the home. This could be hinting at the occupant of this home possessing a shield, possibly a Knight of Hyrule? I think so. Perhaps some sort of lookout over the area surrounding Gaponga Village, a vantage point lookout of sorts. The spot itself is rather out of the way and awkward to reach as there are no direct paths, stairs, or ladders to reach it. It's almost hidden away on this little cliffside looking out to the wetlands. It's also within central Hyrule, so the chances of it being a knight of some sort that lived here are slightly higher, but that's nothing to really back it strongly. This could have also just been somebody who wanted to live out of the way in their own little spot, and I can absolutely get behind that. There's a beautiful natural waterfall beside the home, a nice large tree, and a great view all round, all whilst being out of the reach from people. Was the owner of this home possibly a little wealthy to live in this location? Maybe. In the current day, with all the wells across Hyrule being open to explore now, we can find Moza down here, the cook that was notoriously known for her awful cooking in Breath of the Wild. But in Tears of the Kingdom, she has actually improved massively, as if you speak to her and bring her a ruined meal, she has the ability to save it, turning it into monster stew. As to why she picked this well in particular, well, I have no idea. The Rikoka Hills ruins would have been a hidden gem of a spot to live. It's likely that they were destroyed in the chaos of the Great Calamity due to how centrally based it is. And unfortunately, it's extremely unlikely that this site will be repaired anytime in the near future, as it's simply just not a priority. It's 2 small buildings, very out of the way, and the future of these ruins is most likely lying in ruin for many more years to come. Over in the Necluda region, we can find the Rebella Wetlands, a location where we can find one of the new Skyview towers and some of the leftover construction parts, engulfed by large ribcage remains from beasts of the ancient past. This area also contains some ruins dotted around. We can find these large flags, exclusively in Breath of the Wild, as they'd been removed in Tears of the Kingdom, likely for the construction of the tower, along with these stone remains scattered about the area. These are the very same materials that we see the outpost ruins across the kingdom made of. The flags in particular are a marker of an outpost, small settlements that the Knights of Hyrule would have once lived in and or worked at pre-Calamity. We see them all over the kingdom, typically near travelling routes or in the more populated areas of Hyrule. They were used to protect and see what's going on. However, these outpost ruins, or what's left of them, are rather out of the way, in a rather hard to access area within these hills. So why? In the previous game Breath of the Wild, before this new tower was built, you could find a Hinox resting here, as well as 2 other Hinox just down the hill, at Koto and Hanu Pond. This was all part of one big shrine quest, as each Hinox guarded an orb needed to unlock the nearby shrine. We can assume these beasts made the area their home following the Great Calamity, as these ruins would have been in use prior. Now, if we look to Hanu Pond, we can actually find something rather interesting that adds to this overall area. We find the remains of homes, just down the hill from the outpost remains at the top. Not a ton, but enough to consider this little nook at least a small village, but like the outpost, why all the way up here? There isn't much going on in this area. Perhaps these were the homes of researchers looking at all of the bones here, but there is nothing to actually support that idea other than the placement of the homes. It's not massively far-fetched, but it's also not definite. We could also suggest that maybe some of the knights on duty at the outpost lived here when they were off duty, but it definitely wouldn't be enough for all of them, as the outpost would have been decently numbered, even one out here. Going back to the outpost ruins, there is one potential reason I can think of for strategically having this right here. We know through the lore of the Akala Citadel that at some point in time prior to the Calamity, Hyrule had lookouts for potential invaders from sea. If any of these potential invaders tried to enter the kingdom from the southern coastline, it's entirely possible that they'd want to stay off the main pathways. Attempting a shortcut over these hills would avoid the main pathways, but they'd only then run into this hidden outpost and tiny village in their way, stopping them in their tracks. It's obviously pure speculation, but that's the fun of looking at these ruins and thinking about what they could have been like back in the day. I'm going to roll with the idea that this little village was for research, as Heiteno Village and Lurelin Village aren't too far from here as general settlements. I think this was here for a reason, plonked right in the deep end and where the research work is at, as there's actually quite a lot of bones in the area. The local outpost would also provide a good bit of reassurance in terms of safety too, as being so out of the way would come with its own risks, as if anything happened out here, it'd take a good while for that to even be known. This whole area is quite interesting, and holds a fair amount of backstory, but given the current state of the kingdom, despite being on the up, I don't think we'll be seeing any repairs here anytime soon. On the riverside climb up towards Zora's domain, beside Inigo Bridge at the beginning of this route, we can find a lone building ruin atop the hill, caged by massive bones. The hill itself doesn't have a name, but the cave inside is known as Bon Pon Cave, named after Bon Pond just down here. So for the sake of simplicity, I'll refer to the hill as Bon Pond Hill. Near the top, we find this ruined home of the past, standing alone. But why? Why is there just a single home here atop the hill? It feels so randomly placed. At the same time, living alone surrounded by these massive prehistoric ribcage remains is pretty badass. It's quiet, but similar to the Rikoka Hills ruins, it isn't completely disconnected from civilization. Gaponga Village is just down the road, and Zora's domain is up the road, but who would have lived here? A researcher checking out these colossal remains all over the area? Somebody who fished for a living? Or perhaps just someone who wants peace, which, once again, I feel that. It's a pretty small living space, so I can't imagine there were more than 2 people living here, but honestly, probably just 1. We know that the nearby Gaponga village had a lot of Zora inhabitants, as well as Zora's domain itself being just up the road, so it's fairly likely that it was a lone Zora living here, which would make sense given the location. Like Rikoka Hills, maybe this was also some sort of home for a lookout, but personally, I don't quite think that's it, as there would have been Zora guards watching out all along the river on these lookout platforms, as well as more down by Bone Pond. Nowadays, all we find is a wee Korok hiding here. There are no hints as to who lived here, and if there was any specific purpose of a home being right here. The location does feel a bit odd, which makes me believe there surely was some sort of purpose. I want to suggest that it was either somebody fishing for a living or a researcher on these massive bones. I think the researcher is a little more likely, as there are a lot of bones in the area, with even more being found inside the cave. This entire little area is actually quite fascinating in terms of the remains found here. Some sort of large beast fell here, leaving a stunning spectacle of bones poking out from the ground. Like Rikoka, I don't see this home being repaired. It will continue to stand the test of time and lie alone in ruin. Now for the final ghost town of the video, saving the best until last, the most lore heavy ruins and mystery begging remains. This is Rauru Settlement Ruins. A location just northeast of Hyrule Castle that has been heavily requested for me to look at across the past Ghost Towns videos, so let's have a look. This was definitely a well-populated and visited town back in the day. Unfortunately, due to its prime real estate location, it more than definitely suffered heavily from the Great Calamity, which started from Hyrule Castle. We can even see this in the damage. The homes are not just destroyed, but some were burnt down to nothing more than weak frames and black burned ground. It's a bit tough to think about, but it's likely all of this happened quickly, meaning the people of Rauru Settlement likely didn't escape in time. There are a good few building remains both up the hillside, on the other side of the path, and by the bog. Speaking of, it's possible that back in the day, this was water rather than thick mud, but due to all of the damage and likely landsliding into the water, it thickened into a dangerous bog. We can even see a few homes halfway in already. In the current day, we can also see some Sky Island debris poking out from within the bog, fallen from the sky. We can't say for sure, but it's entirely possible there are more ruins down within the muck that we just can't see. Like I said, we see a few ruined buildings or two on the edges around the bog, some already partly submerged. Perhaps prior to the attacks, there were more around the edges, which fell in as guardians blasted powerful beams at the innocent people of Hyrule, destroying their homes and land in the process. There's also Rauru Hillside, which is, funny enough, up the hill from here. Nothing too special to note other than its existence. Rauru Settlement was likely a primarily Hylian settlement, likely people who worked in Castletown or the general central Hyrule area. Merchants, blacksmiths, farmers, bakers, and so on. Common jobs around Hyrule. But there may be more to these ruins than meets the eye. The name Rauru Settlement Ruins is significant. Not only is that the name of King Rauru, the ancient king of Hyrule who sealed Ganondorf, but it's also in reference to the ancient sage Rauru seen in Ocarina of Time. Could this town be in honour of one of them? Perhaps both. It is very close to Hyrule Castle, which was built following the sealing of Ganondorf by King Rauru himself, so it's possible this wee settlement is indeed to honour the king's sacrifice. In-game lore-wise, it feels the most likely of the two. There is one more reference within here though. The name Rauru Settlement is also in reference to Rauru Town from the second Legend of Zelda game on the NES, which also happened to be not far from Hyrule Castle. A neat reference from the developers. As for the future of Rauru Settlement Ruins, I can see there being a future here. As the kingdom continues to slowly repair and repopulate in the Wilds era, I believe this settlement will be rebuilt to some degree. It's in a great location and has a stunning view of the castle, but currently it stands in ruin, home to a few monsters and a couple of researchers looking at the nearby cave. But in terms of the in-game future, I think this town will recover and be rebuilt. Thanks a ton for watching. What did you think of these ruins and my speculations, thoughts and ideas regarding them? Let me know down in the comments, as well as anything you've got to add. If you aren't already aware, I have a Discord server which you can join and chat to myself as well as many other Zelda fans. It's linked below alongside my socials if you'd like to follow me on those as well to keep up to date and interact with me. As always, a massive thank you goes to my channel supporters for the incredible support which helps to make these videos all the more possible. I offer a weekly inside scoop post, your name at the end of my videos, and a shout out when you join. If you want to financially support my videos, then check out the links in the description. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.